What's up, guys? We are back in this episode working on the 54. So today, you can see we're kind of halfway through working on paint stuff. So it's kind of a mess on that end. A lot of learning curves on painting. So yeah, we won't get into that today. But the goal is, since we had the top end of the engine rebuilt, I'm going to I already put the head gasket on and the head, but I gotta redo the valve train, so I figured I'd show you guys today my process for doing the upper valve train and all that. I'm also going to reinstall the T5. We did a full T5 transmission video in the past, a conversion video. I got a new clutch from Summit Racing that is a little bit bigger, should fit a little bit better. And we're gonna put that T5 back in, and then we're gonna do an upper valve train adjustment on it. So let's get to it. All right, so here's the pressure plate with the fingers. Here's the actual new clutch from Summit. And it fits this 10.5 perfectly. So this is gonna be it's gonna have a lot more grab. It's definitely gonna feel a lot different whenever you release the clutch on this thing. All right, clutch is in, pressure plate's in, cat's in my face. On right now, pesty. Button face, get out of here. Do you even know why we call you pesty? I think it's pretty obvious. All right, let's put the adapter plate on, just like so. So that way we can bolt it up to the Chevy 235. If you want a more complete instructions on how to convert your truck, make sure and watch my previous video. I'm pretty dang detailed with it. So anyways, watch that. Otherwise, just watch me install this transmission. All right, transmission's in. I didn't film a lot of it because there was a lot of cussing. If you ever put a transmission in, you know. If you know, you know, right? Alright guys, we are at the part that you have been waiting for, and that is setting the valve train on this Chevy 235. So let's go over the basics first. You got 6 cylinders, so you're going to have 12 adjustments here. So the good news is you can do it in 2 strokes. So in other words, we're going to start off by finding top dead center on this engine, starting with that half first. There's certain valves that you can do during that, and then we're going to rotate it at 180 degrees, and the other side should be ready for us to adjust, and then we will set it in place. Now you're supposed to have this engine hot. That's the best time to adjust it, but if you're on a fresh rebuild, or you're like me, you rebuilt the top end or whatever, that's not really an option because you haven't ran it. So what we're going to do is we're going to get it close, and then when we get it to where it's running again, we'll have to come back and do this again. But for now, let's get this adjusted. So let's get it into top dead center. There's a couple ways you're going to do this. So I have all the radiator and stuff out, so it makes it easy for me. If you have your starter on there, you can bump it. Not the preferred method because you're going to shoot oil everywhere, but also the starter is going to make the motor move a lot, and it's not going to be very precise. So ideally, you would have a tool on the crank, or since my motor is not really hooked up to anything, I can use the crank and the fan up front, it's actually gonna have to move it. Now, worst case scenario, there's a plate on the bottom of the transmission area where it mates up to the engine. It's held in by 4 like flathead bolts. Take that plate off, and you can use the flywheel on this engine to turn it little by little. Maybe have someone with you here to help you. So we're going to turn this engine, and what you're going to do is you're going to look in this window back here in this back corner. There's a little window in the transmission bell housing, and there's like a little arrow in there. And so we're going to turn this motor until that arrow lines up with a BB. So let's do that first, and then I'll show you what to do next. So let's turn it. All right, so we have found top dead center. Now I do have a little tool. You don't need it at all. This is like a frivolous purchase. This is a whistle. And so you see how it's got a rubber end? You can stick this in the spark plug hole, and then when you're on the compression stroke, it'll actually start to make this whistle. And then you know you're on the compression stroke, and when you get somewhere to where the piston's at the top, you'll see that BB in that window that I'm talking about. So let's take a look at that window. Let me see if I can show it to you. All right, here's the window. All right, you see that window there? I'm going to turn the motor a little bit. That way maybe you can see the BB better. Do you see that little BB? That little metallic BB? So we're going to get the motor back where that's at. That arrow lines right up with that BB, but that's what you're looking for. So let's go to the next step. All right, now that you found the BB and the arrows lined up, let's go ahead and take off the distributor cap by carefully undoing the clips. And if we did it right, you see how the number 1 is right here? The distributor is also pointed in that direction. You see how it was pointed towards the number 1 cylinder? So that's confirmation that we are on top dead center. And so there's a bunch of clues. So we have the distributor cap is pointed towards cylinder number 1. We have the arrow in the back pointed at the BB. We had confirmation with this whistle that we're on the compression stroke. So pretty confident here that we're on top dead center. You could also, if you want to, try to shine a light into the spark plug hole here and look at the top of the piston. But anyways, we are now ready to start adjusting these valves. I didn't mention it earlier, but I thought it was obvious. Make sure you have at least your number 1 spark plug out. Otherwise, turning this engine is going to be quite the chore because you're fighting compression. So it's better just to take the spark plugs out, in my opinion. But anyways, let's start adjusting the valves. So what you're going to need is a 5/8 box end wrench, a big flathead, and you're going to need a feeler gauge. This guy right here. And so you're going to want a bunch of different small gauges to go off of, and we're going to find the right one here in a second. Now the 2 feelers that we're going to need are the 6/1000 and the 0.1 and the 18/1000. So in other words, put the other was away. That way you kind of have it like this, and you can have these 2 ready to use because these are the 2 that we're going to use. So remember, when you're using a feeler gauge, there's a couple of important things. One, you want to make sure they are clean because these are measuring the thousandth, so very small. You want to make sure they're very clean. The other thing is the angle. So you don't want to be all crooked when you're measuring it, okay? You don't want to be measuring at an angle because that's going to put pressure against there and it's going to give you a false reading. When you're actually pushing it in the rocker and you're loosening and tightening, when you start to feel a tightening, you should be able to like move it around loosely without feeling anything at all. And as you tighten, you start to feel a little bit of resistance. That means you're right at that thousandths and you're really close. I usually snug it up just a little bit more till I have a pretty decent resistance, you know, where you can like move it pretty freely, but there's like a resistance to it, and that's how I go about doing it. It's a feel thing, I mean, aka feeler gauge, but just make sure you follow those couple of principles. Make sure you're at a flat angle. Make sure that there's no like a bunch of debris on here to give you false readings, and under that it's pretty easy. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the 0.018 and we are going to put it in the first valve. So if everything is close already, these two first valves should be a little bit loose, and that's okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure this is all the way up, and we're going to put your feeler gauge in between the spring, that little area, and the nose of the first valve. And as you can see, I'm getting no feeling at all. Like, I can move it up and down, and so this is no good. So I'm gonna have to adjust this one. So in order to make adjustments, what you do is you take your flathead like this guy right here, because this is actually what's making the adjustment, and the boxed in is what locks in the adjustment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen the nut with the box in just a hair, just enough to be able to move this screw. And then I am going to take my feeler gauge, so the 0.018, remember to make sure it's flat, and I'm going to constantly move it a little bit back and forth. Might have to make yours a little looser. All right, move it back and forth. All right, now I'm starting to feel resistance. And so when I'm moving it, it's not hard to move, but I'm definitely fighting the feel, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not having a tug, like it's taking almost no effort to move it, but there's like a gentle slide, you know? It's almost like the most well-greased slide that your kid is riding down in the park. So if I go too much, you see I can't move it anymore. So I'm gonna back it off a little bit. That feels pretty good right there. So I'm happy with where that's at. So what I'll do is I'll keep the screwdriver in place. I'll lock the nut. All right, so what that nut did is that locked it in place, and so I want to go in and make sure that everything is good after locking the nut. Perfect. See, I'm getting resistance. All right, now we're going to move on to valve number 2, which is the second one, and we can grab the 0.06 side, and we're going to follow the same process. So remember to hold it flat, find that gap in between there. And this one already has a little bit of resistance, but I'm not happy with it, so I'm going to go ahead and adjust it. I'm going to make it a little bit better. All right. So I got my handy screwdriver here. Got the 0.06. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to hold the screwdriver where it's at. Use my box end here. All right, and that's set. And then like I did before, after I set it, I'm going to take the 0.06. All right, perfect. All right, so you're gonna continue to do the same thing. So the order, after you've done that and you got that good, you know, there's 12 of them, but like I said, you can do half of them right now. So the next one we're gonna go to is the number 3 valve. And so we'll do the same thing. So we're gonna take the 0.06 on the number 3 valve. Alright, so have you had your beer? I hope so, because we're to move on and we're going to do the second half now. So we're going to use the same process as before. We are going to watch the window and we're going to turn the motor again, except this time we're looking for top dead center on number 6, which if we find it, that means we've gone one full revolution. And so something else you can watch for is, remember your friendly distributor cap down here? Right now it's pointed at cylinder number 1. When we go one full revolution, it should be pointed the opposite side to number 6. So let's turn the motor, and we are going to be looking for that BB. See, you hear the whistle? Getting close. See the cap, how it's coming up to number 6? There she is. Boom. Top dead center, number 6. You'll know too, because the whistle will stop because the compression is pretty much done. Like the cylinder's all the way at the top, no more compression, so it'll stop right before you get to that BB. So I'm not going to show you all of them again, because it's the same exact process of what we just did. But I will put up on the screen what the process is. So you're basically now, you're going to be hitting number 12. You're from the back to front. Number 12, number 11, 10, 8, 6, and 4. And when you're done with that, you've adjusted all of them. So remember, this is really supposed to be done when the engine's hot, but it is what it is. So when you're done and you start this thing up, you should hear a little valve noise. So this is not a newer motor. This is an old flat motor. So a little valve noise is okay. You just don't want like crazy valve noise. But if you've done it right, you should hear a little valve noise. So go ahead and do your process and do the other half of them. And like I said, I'll put it up on the screen. All right, so we got the valve train over there. I mean, the valve train, the freaking valve cover. There you go. Come on, brain. Got over there painting. I did get the radiator support back in with 2 bolts at the bottom there. The bolts that were in it were pretty rusted, so I found a couple of stainless ones and used that. I am putting in a new radiator because I exploded the last one when I was driving it. I drove it without the hood and stuff just to like get it out of my garage, and the radiator is so close to the fan that it pretty much exploded it. So because it made contact without all that extra bracing and stuff that's normally over here. So anyways, let's go ahead and put this radiator. Well guys, that's pretty much it for this episode. We got the new radiator in, got the front piece back in, engine's all hooked back together and adjusted like I showed you earlier. Hopefully that helped you. The transmission, drive shaft, all that's back in. So mechanically this thing is ready to rock and roll. There's a few odds and ends like reconnecting the fuel lines, making sure all the right drains and stuff are hooked up to the radiator. I still need to put the 2 lines that go from the radiator inside the heater, inside the cab. And that be it for now mechanically. But yeah, there's a big elephant in the room with obviously the body and paint and stuff they need to finish. But man guys, I am ready for this truck to hit the road. So my plan is to force myself to work on this thing pretty relentlessly so I can get this thing done. So come back, follow me for more videos like this, and let's finish this truck together, huh? See you in the next one, guys. Bye.